Welcome to The Confident Networker with your host, Simone Douglas. In each insightful episode, she chats with one of the leading people from the BNI and business world.
Alrighty, so on today's episode of The Confident Networker, I am joined by Kristy Saunders from Pisani Group. Kristy, thanks for coming along today.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So Kristy is a member of BNI Storm, who meets on a Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Kristy, how long have you been in BNI for?
I am coming up to about 2.5 years. Yeah.
So in that time, though, you've had a lot of change happen. So what has been your business evolution and journey while you've been in BNI?
Okay, so I started in the residential real estate sales seat. So I'd been in residential real estate for about 10 years. Was it a decade, which is true, but it sounds a lot longer. And so I started my journey with BNI under that seat.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of last year, another business kind of presented itself and became a real focus for us. So myself with my business partner, we started the business technically, Pisani Property Advisors, in January, February of this year.
Yeah.
And so the step through BNI was that I thankfully was able to change my seat and stay with my chapter, which was great because I'd already strengthened those relationships really well. So it was nice to be able to grow and move with that chapter with the new business.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what does Pisani Property Advisors do?
Well, effectively, we want to be a consultant for the general public. We want to be able to help them navigate through one of the trickiest life decisions that they can make, and that's purchasing property or selling property. So traditionally, our business focuses on buyer advocacy service.
Okay.
So we help our clients to not only buy, whether that's established or something that they are looking to move into themselves. But a big part of that is we're also helping our clients to invest. And at the moment, given the current real estate climate, a lot of that investing is happening in off the plan. So we're helping them to navigate what can be a quite tricky and quite fraught with danger sort of area. But we also do help our clients with the selling side as well. We don't do the selling anymore, but what we do is help our clients to select the right agent for themselves, because that can be a bit of a minefield as well.
Yeah.
And consumers, they look at, surface level information when making those decisions, which is great. But we've got the experience of knowing what is a real indicator of the right agent for them.
Yeah, of course, because you've had so much experience in industry.
So that's been really good as well, and we're sort of doing quite a lot with that at the moment as well. So it's more just being advocates for our clients and helping them to make the right choices.
Yeah. So over the course of those changes, roughly what percentage of your new business comes via referral right now?
So I probably was getting, in my sort of real estate first year and a half of doing that, was probably getting about 30 or 40%, to be honest, of my referrals coming in from the group, but also from relationships that I was building in my wider networks, which were still very much linked in with BNI. And to be honest, that's probably still continued because even though our business is in its infancy now, the relationships that I've built are really strong. So really what I'm working through now with our other members is more around just educating them on the new business.
That makes
the
sense.
Relationship's already there. The trust is already there.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure that they're across what the new services are.
Yeah. Well, and even in the quick chat we're having now, I'm like, oh, by advocacy, I didn't realize that's what you were doing. So I'm like, okay, now I understand, and I can keep an ear out, which is great.
Yeah.
So based on that though, how important is networking to your business?
It's huge. Obviously, I think in real estate in general and property, it's one of those fields where having good repeat and referral business is really important. That's been a huge fundamental of my business for the last 10 years. And so adding BNI into that has been so dramatic for me in terms of not just the obvious, being introduced to new people and getting new opportunities, but also I think more so growth and personal development as well is really important. I don't mind public speaking, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
And being every week standing up and having to sell myself to my friends and fellow colleagues is a good exercise in continual growth. So I think there's a few areas with which I think it's so important in my business.
Well, I think people say to me all the time that I could talk with a mouthful of marbles underwater. And I never used to be that person. I was terrified of my own shadow.
Yeah.
And the first BNI chapter meeting that I went to, after I was accepted as an applicant, and I had to stand up and deliver a weekly presentation pitching my business to the room, I was hyperventilating before I stood up. I was shaking, and then I sat down. I was like, "Oh my god!" So
yes. And I mean, to be honest, full truth, there are still days or times when I feel that way, and I think it's good because it reminds you of your vulnerability. I think, and it makes you kind of again work through that next thing. Okay, that's normal to feel that way, but it is a bit sometimes, for not
sure.
always, but
I get that. And I think it's it's human nature too, because when you're heavily invested in the relationships in the room, like you care more. Yeah. So
you want to do well, you want to do better, you want to showcase yourself in the best possible way. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've covered off that. What is the best piece of networking advice you've ever been given by someone?
I think I live by the obviously givers gain mentality. I think although that's a bit broad, but I think even sitting down and talking with some newer members over the last few weeks, that trying to hang on to and remember that in kind of everything that we do is really important, because we were explaining to a new member, you might give a referral to this person, but that doesn't mean that person has to give one back to you, but that person will give to someone else. And if you're doing the work and you're freely giving, 100% that will come back to you. When you are not doing the right behaviours, then unfortunately that's when things aren't going to come back to you. So although it's not specifically a piece of advice, it's probably one of the principles that I'm very always keep in the forefront of my mind, because it's so important and it's so true. Yeah. If you do the right thing for someone else, of course they want to help you in return. Yeah, they do. Reciprocity.
But that help, like you said, could be all sorts of different types of help.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like I still remember years ago when I split up with my husband at the time, Simon J. Roberts, who was the executive director of the region that I was a member in, turned up on a Saturday in 40-degree heat and weeded my front garden for 4 hours.
Legend.
And there were a whole heap of other BNI members who came and, they helped paint and do all sorts of things so I could get the house ready so I could sell it, so I could get on with my life. Yeah. And so this got nothing to do with business, but it's where those relationships end up.
Oh, definitely. And I think, COVID is a perfect example. I remember... hearing that is so powerful, because it's a thing that you will also remember for the rest of the time, because that's a difficult time in your life, and you were able to lean on those people. But I remember when COVID struck, March 2020, and everyone, I remember our first Zoom meeting, just the camaraderie and the support in that room. There were people who were suffering a lot more than others, and just it was more than business. Yeah, it was so much more than business. It was actually getting me a bit teary thinking about it. It was, it was just emotional and raw, and everyone was like, you know what, I'm here for you, for whatever you need, and everyone banded together, and it highlighted for me that this is way more than business. Yeah, and all those little things, those little details, those little extra bits and pieces. That's why, you said it yesterday at the training, we're a family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you start off like when you first get accepted as a member, if you're lucky enough to get accepted, there's an application process after all. But when you first become, part of BNI, I always say you start by having 30 plus new business friends. And then over time, as you give and get to know everyone and invest in the relationships, those business friends turn into business family. And the beauty of business family is that they want the absolute best for you, and they will add their will to yours to help you to achieve your dreams and your goals. And that's fun. That's why I do what I do, because I love it. It's just like so good.
I was going to say, side note, do you know that I missed out, back to the application process. I missed out my first time. My first application. I missed out. So I find that, I always tell that story because I find it quite powerful in that I applied and I missed out, and I was looking at other avenues. I think you were talking maybe with some people about maybe starting anew.
Something,
and then I got a call, and I remember being like, and I wanted it more than anything.
Yeah.
Because I'd missed out, and I realised once I'd missed out how much I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I was like, please pick me. Please pick me. I'm so glad that they did.
That they did, yeah. So I guess the other question then becomes, though, not every visitor is going to join BNI. No. Do we want visitors to come to the chapter that have no intention of joining?
Yes, we do.
We do.
This is a really big one because I'm quite passionate about, because obviously you did a role, the visitor host role for some time, and it was one I got a lot. Do we really, is it good to have someone that's not going to want to join? But there's so much more value to a visitor than just becoming a member.
Yeah.
We've got people that we welcome their applications. We're looking for someone in that seat, in that profession. But the amount of times that a visitor turns into referrals, or it therefore introduces you to someone else who actually does want to join. I think we can sometimes tend to pigeonhole someone as that, if they, that they'll be a member or they're just filling a spot. When in actual fact, they are such a huge part of our business and bring a lot to our business as well. So
absolutely.
I think they're very important.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. And I'm always like, I say to people, just come and meet some new people. Not everyone on the planet is going to become a BNI member, and we don't care. But we do like making new friends and meeting new people and having those opportunities, because I'll meet someone at a BNI meeting and I'll go, I've got a lunch that I'm hosting next week. Do you want to come? Let's pick up that conversation, because Adelaide's a networking town. Yeah.
And you're great for that. It's clear why you're in the position that you are, because you're a great connector of people, and you're very good at putting that, matching people and remembering. And I think that comes with time and experience.
Practice.
But I also think that the idea of networking is we don't know where someone is going to go, where it's going to lead, what it's going to be. And especially in sales roles, you do a lot of things that don't necessarily produce the outcome that you had hoped. And that's okay. But 6 months down the track, something happens. And
absolutely.
So you realise not to assume that just because a person doesn't fit into this particular place that you want them, that they have no value to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. Yeah. What is the best introduction someone's given you?
So early in the piece, so I think I was probably a member for only 3 months or 4 months. One of the members introduced me to their employer. They worked for a sustainable housing company, consultant, and that consultancy company had built Adelaide's first 8.2 star rated home. This home was built with just the most impeccable standards, and like nothing else you'd ever seen before. It was a hard referral in that it took me a long time to get the right buyer. It took a lot of learning. Yeah. But I came out the other end of that far more experienced in a field that I had always been very interested in learning about. Yeah. And I now know that I'm probably the agent that company will use for any other sales that they do, because of the breadth of knowledge and the determination, I think, that I showed in finding them a buyer and getting them the result that they were looking for. So, but that I only just had that sort of settle and get paid for it last month. There was a lot of work in the beginning, and so but it was so rewarding. And I think for me that was a really good one, in that it provided opportunity for more ongoing work, but also just growth. I learned so much.
Which is always fantastic when you get that chance.
Yeah.
So if you were to bump into someone in the property field who's been invited to this BNI thing, and they're literally like, I've been invited to this BNI thing, I really don't know if I want to get up that early, or, I'm a bit busy, or whatever it might be. What advice would you give them?
Well, the first thing I would do is I would ask them to look at where they're currently spending their money on marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So in having been in the property space for such a long time, I know that there is a lot of money dumped into marketing areas which are considered traditional, and kind of essential, but really the ROI on those is always a little iffy.
Mm-hmm.
We've all got those silly letterbox drops in the, direct marketing, etc. So I would probably say to them, look, what do you spend on that sort of thing? And can you measure what that returns for you in terms of business? Because I can almost guarantee, and I would show them and I would talk, and I kind of have done that a little bit. This is what I have done in my short period of time. This is what has come back to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I've gotten out of it, because I know personally when I look at those figures compared to the money I would spend on those other avenues, that it is hands down best ROI you could get. But I think secondary to that is by the time my Wednesday meeting is over, I feel alive.
Yeah.
I feel ready to take on the world. I've already done 30 client meetings basically in 2 hours. I feel energized. I'm ready for the rest of the day. And so the rest of my week is so much more productive.
You up, yeah.
So there's so many benefits to it. And before I joined, someone did say to me, it's a cult. I said, and now I say, don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I'm in.
I'm in. It's a business cult. Absolutely. It's a business cult. So lastly, it wouldn't be a BNI type of a podcast if I didn't ask you who your ideal referral was. So if one of our listeners today was the person that you needed to sit down and have a coffee with to potentially take your business to its next level of whatever you're trying to achieve, who would you love to have a coffee with?
Well, I think that the people that could help accelerate my business would be similar to my current business partner, which is a successful accountant.
Yeah.
Reason being, for obvious, tax reasons, property investment, taking into depreciation, all those things that are above my pay grade. Yeah. Speak to your accountant. Those are the kinds of things that I can help their clients with going forward, is looking at what the right things are for them in terms of the property space. So it can be a bit daunting, as we said before. So accountants are a really good one, but also just mums and dads, people who haven't bought or sold in a long time. And it's quite scary, especially with the current buoyant real estate market. You need sometimes a bit of guidance and a bit of advice, and something that's impartial. So talking to the agent of the property that you're looking to buy, great, but unfortunately isn't neutral.
No,
for
not
me,
neutral at all.
No. I once had a client say, the agent says he's going to help me bid it at the auction.
He's going to help you bid up. That's what he's going to do.
Let me do that.
Yeah.
Let me do that, because I don't have it. I want to see you buy the property.
Yeah.
But I don't have any underlying
attachment
need
to the
to get
price.
that.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So.
So if there's somebody listening who is either a good friend of a really cool accountant, because we like cool accountants.
We like cool accountants. Yeah.
Or knows someone who's getting ready to take that leap of faith and invest in property, Kristy would love to have coffee with you. All of her contact details in terms of LinkedIn and websites and things are in the descriptions on the podcast. But she's also happy to host you over breakfast on a Wednesday morning at BNI Storm. We do like making new friends. We don't need everybody to join at the end of the day. We just like networking. Thanks very much for joining us.
So welcome. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Thank you for listening to The Confident Networker. You can find more episodes and information at bnian.com.au/podcast.